What if I told you that on this one day in history, empires were born and broken in ways that totally reshaped our world, and it's all been left out of your history books? Today, we're pulling back the curtain on some of the most shocking events of August 15th. This isn't just a date on the calendar, it's a day of cosmic whispers, cultural revolutions, and geopolitical earthquakes that created the very world we live in now. So forget the dusty textbooks. We're getting into the stories so wild, you'll wonder why they were never taught in school. From a potential message from another world to the birth of a man who would conquer a continent, August 15th holds some serious secrets. And today we're spilling them all. Let's start our journey not on Earth, but out in the silent, sprawling darkness of deep space. On August 15, 1977, astronomers at Ohio State University's Big Ear radio telescope were doing what they always did, listening for aliens. It was a constant, and let's be honest, probably thankless job. But then, something suddenly and shockingly interrupted the silence. The telescope, aimed at the constellation Sagittarius, picked up a radio signal so powerful, it defied every known natural explanation. For 72 seconds straight, the Big Ear was hit with a strong, narrowband radio burst. When astronomer Jerry Eman reviewed the computer printout a few days later, he was so floored by the signal's intensity that he circled the code 6EQUJ5 and wrote one word in the margin: "Wow." So what made it so special? It hit at a frequency of 1,420 MHz, better known as the hydrogen line. This is a big deal because hydrogen is the most common element in the universe, and scientists have long figured that any smart civilization trying to phone home would use this universal calling card. The signal was a perfect, structured anomaly. And then, just as mysteriously as it arrived, it was gone. It has never ever been detected again, despite countless tries. Was it some bizarre natural event we just don't understand yet? Or was it a genuine, targeted hello from across the cosmos that we just happened to overhear? The mystery is still one of the most compelling in science, a single word on a printout that hints we might not be alone. Alright, let's pull it back down to Earth, way back to the 18th century, on the Mediterranean island of Corsica. On August 15, 1769, a boy named Napoleone di Bonaparte was born into a family of minor nobles. At the time, who could have guessed that this kid would grow up to be Napoleon Bonaparte, the emperor who would conquer most of Europe and completely change the course of modern history? Born just a year after France took over Corsica, Napoleon's beginnings were pretty humble. He was educated in mainland France, learned the language, and graduated from a military academy. The chaos of the French Revolution created the perfect storm for a guy with his ambition and strategic genius to just climb the ladder. His story is one of pure, relentless drive. He was a brilliant military strategist who grabbed political power in a bloodless coup in 1799 and 5 years later, literally crowned himself Emperor of the French. His Napoleonic Wars had him leading his Grande Armée against basically all of Europe, expanding his empire from Spain to the Russian border. But he wasn't just a conqueror, he was a reformer. The Napoleonic Code, a set of civil laws he created, went on to influence legal systems all over the world and is still used in some forms today. The birth of this one man on August 15th wasn't just the start of a life, it was the start of an empire and an era of conflict and change that left a permanent mark on the world. August 15th isn't just about making empires, it's also about breaking them. On this day in 1947, the world map was dramatically redrawn. At the stroke of midnight, after nearly 200 years of British rule, the Indian Independence Act went into effect, creating two new independent nations, India and Pakistan. This wasn't some simple handover of power. It was the result of decades of struggle, a freedom movement led by icons like Mahatma Gandhi and India's first Prime Minister, Jawaharlal Nehru, who championed non-violent resistance. The fight was long, and it was defined by the sacrifices of countless people who just wanted a nation of their own. On that very first Independence Day, Jawaharlal Nehru raised the Indian national flag over the Red Fort in Delhi, a powerful symbol of a new beginning. He spoke of India's tryst with destiny, a moment when a nation that had been suppressed for so long finally found its voice. But this freedom came at a heartbreaking price. The partition of the subcontinent sparked one of the largest and most violent mass migrations in human history. So, while August 15th is celebrated with parades and patriotism across India, it's also a solemn reminder of the painful birth of a nation. It was the day the British Empire lost its jewel in the crown, and a new world power began its journey. Now, let's jump forward to a more recent, but just as revolutionary, moment. On August 15, 1969, on a dairy farm in Bethel, New York, a music festival kicked off that would define an entire generation. It was billed as 3 days of peace, music, but the world would come to know it simply as Woodstock. What was supposed to be a normal, ticketed concert quickly snowballed into a free-for-all cultural phenomenon. Instead of the planned crowd, more than 400 people showed up, turning Max Yasgur's farm into a sprawling, temporary city. The festival almost didn't even happen after being denied permits in 2 other towns. Despite logistical nightmares, rain that turned the fields into an ocean of mud, and epic traffic jams, the event became the symbol of the 1960s counterculture. For 3 days, legends like Jimi Hendrix, Janis Joplin, and The Who took the stage. The whole thing kicked off on the 15th with Richie Havens, who wasn't even supposed to be the first act. He was just pushed on stage because the scheduled band was stuck in traffic. Woodstock was so much more than a concert, it was a statement. In a time of war and social upheaval, it became a powerful symbol of peace, love, and community, proving that music could unite hundreds of thousands of people and define the spirit of an age. On this same date, just 2 years before India's independence, August 15, 1945, marked the effective end of the deadliest conflict in human history, World War II. The day is known as Victory over Japan Day, or VJ Day, and it set off waves of celebration around the entire globe. After the devastating atomic bombs were dropped on Hiroshima and Nagasaki, and the Soviet Union invaded Manchuria, the Japanese government finally accepted the Allies' terms of unconditional surrender. On August 15th, Emperor Hirohito's voice was broadcast on the radio, announcing the surrender to the Japanese people. For most of them, it was the very first time they had ever heard their emperor speak. In the US, President Harry S. Truman announced the news to the world, calling it the day everyone had been waiting for since Pearl Harbor. In London, Prime Minister Clement Attlee confirmed, "The last of our enemies is laid low." For millions, from soldiers in the Pacific to families at home, it was a moment of pure, overwhelming relief. The 6 long, brutal years of global war were finally over. While the formal surrender document wasn't signed until September 20, August 15th is the day the world celebrated peace. The theme of independence on August 15th doesn't stop with India. In 1960, the Republic of the Congo officially gained its independence from France. This Central African nation, rich in resources, had been under French control since the late 1800s. Its capital, Brazzaville, had even been the symbolic capital of Free France during World War II. Led by its first president, Fulbert Youlou, the Congo's independence was another key moment in the wave of decolonization that swept across Africa. And then, there's a much quirkier twist on national identity. On August 15, 2015, North Korea decided to literally set itself apart from the world by creating its own time zone, Pyongyang time. Clocks were set back 30 minutes to mark the 70th anniversary of its liberation from Japan. The government called it a break from the wicked Japanese imperialists who had forced Korea onto their time. Although North Korea switched back in 2018 as a gesture of goodwill to the South, for a few years, August 15th was the day a nation created its own time. So, a single date, August 15th, has seen the birth of emperors and the dawn of nations. It hosted the biggest cultural gathering of a generation and marked the end of a world war. It's a day that caught a whisper from the stars and saw countries reinvent themselves. These moments spanning centuries and continents are all woven together by sharing a single day on the calendar. They prove that history isn't just a sequence of boring events, but a rich, interconnected story, full of unbelievable twists they definitely didn't teach you in school. These are the kinds of stories that usually get left in the margins, but they show how a single day can truly change everything. If you find these hidden histories as fascinating as we do, make sure you hit that subscribe button and ring the notification bell. You won't want to miss what we uncover next. And drop a comment below, tell us which of these August 15th events shocked you the most.